Hi, welcome to the Fit and Healthy Today show, and today's topic matter is estrogen dominance. When I address estrogen dominance today, I'm going to be focusing primarily on how it affects women. However, in a later segment, later on down the road, I'm going to address how it affects men. Estrogen dominance in females, and this is how it shows itself primarily in females. Endometriosis, which is the growth of uterus lining tissue that grows outside of the uterus, climbs all over. It can be dangerous, but more of a nuisance than anything, and cause heavy menstrual periods. Uterine fibroids, they're benign growth tumors that grow in the uterus to very large sizes and can cause heavy bleeding, and eventually maybe even some physicians' hysterectomies are recommended. Polycystic ovarian syndrome, I'm seeing this a lot among young women. They'll cycle once every 3 months, once every 6 months. That's not normal. That's not normal. And we'll talk about it further on down the road, the types of estrogens that are contributing to this in our young women, which is contributing to infertility, weight gain, breast cancer, and in the guys later on we'll talk about prostate cancer. These types of estrogens, primarily environmental estrogens, xenoestrogens, the bisphenol A, the dioxins, pesticides, herbicides, fuel oils, all the chemicals that we use in our environment that are estrogen mimickers or estrogen or disrupt the estrogen flow in the body. There are some studies. Dr. John Lee talks about this in his book, What Your Doctor May Not Tell You About Menopause, that these type of estrogen mimickers can be up to 6 million times stronger in their, than the natural estrogens produced by our body in stimulating estrogen receptors. And that comes with those side effects. So we have to address this issue of how we can reduce the estrogen dominance. There are studies that support that PCPs and dioxins can cause spontaneous, immediate endometrial growth. Oh my gosh, dioxins from meat, fish. They're produced by emissions and they lay on the fields. The cows eat those emissions. The airplanes are flying in above and the fuel oil all dumps around. It's on our grass, it's on our food, it's on everything. And we're ingesting it. It's in our water tables because when the rains come in, it washes it into the ground and then we drink the water. Becoming problematic for not just humans, but animals as well. And potentially down the road, the ability of men and women to reproduce. We'll talk about that further in some studies later on. Obesity and poor liver function, estrogen dominance. When the liver cannot metabolize these estrogens because of excessive alcohol, bad diet, the list goes on, then you end up with these estrogens that are just free-floating, damaging, storing in the body fats, and causing us to get fatter. And what's interesting is once we get fatter and all the estrogens store in our fatty tissues, then the estrogens make more fat, fat makes more estrogen, and it makes it a very vicious cycle in order to lose weight. So estrogen dominance, I think a major contributing factor to weight gain we're seeing, particularly in our younger people. The obesity levels are out of control in our young. Gosh. Lack of good bacteria in the gut, and I could get technical about this, but basically there's certain chemicals that are released by these good bacteria that help you metabolize and neutralize the effects of these xenoestrogens to get them removed out of the bowel when the fiber is high enough in the diet. You don't have these good bacteria, which are destroyed by antibiotics, steroids, fluoride in the water. Oh boy, these estrogen metabolites just get reabsorbed right back into the body to do more damage, particularly the xenoestrogens. Now the natural estrogens found in our body, which are estriol primarily, we've got a little bit of estradiol, a little teeny bit of estrone, are all natural good estrogens that do not cause cancer. These do. These do. I only mentioned just the short-term effects of estrogen dominant. The long-term is uterine cancer, breast cancer, cancer, because these, as I'll talk about further in the research portion, they damage our DNA. So There's a very good study by Harvard University that showed 1 hour of exercise a day, that's hard, I know, but 1 hour lowered the risk factors for endometriosis to 1/5, 20% of what women who don't exercise do. Apparently sweating off that fat, getting it gone, getting things moving, the liver moving, the bowel moving, seems to just lower that incidence of endometriosis. Good study by Harvard. Those are types of studies are appreciated. Non-drug company sponsored studies. I think probably the major contributing factor when we're talking about estrogen dominance is diet, diet, diet. Like I mentioned before, our foods are full of chemicals, and everybody's talking about this global warming, everything else. They're not addressing the fact that we're so full of chemicals, we may not see what's going to happen down the road because of all the reproductive problems we're going to see. You know, not long ago, there was a study done in New York City, and I didn't write this down here, but I thought I'd mention it. It's important. And they thought, oh man, teenage birth rates, they're down. This is terrific. We're doing our job. We're communicating to the kids. They found out it was the same usage, condom usage and birth control usage as before. It's just the girls couldn't get pregnant. 25% reduction because of infertility. I can't tell you the number of young women that are walking into my store in Lompoc and saying to me, oh, I cycle once every 3 months, once every 6 months, I can't get pregnant, I'm infertile. Ay, here we go, once again. I'll talk about more research later on that too. Eat only organic as much as you can. Occasionally we all go out to dinner, some barbecues at a friend's house, not organic, yay. The liver can handle all of that. But when you can get a hold of it at your local grocery stores, your health food stores, wherever, grow it yourself. That way you know for sure it's organic. Eat organic, unsprayed produce and organic meat as much as you can, particularly if you know you're estrogen dominant with the endometriosis, cysts, or fibroids. That's a must. When my customers come in and they're talking about those issues, I was a professional trainer for a lot of years in counseling weight loss, and that was always one of the first things I talked about was eating a lot of organics. Eating beets, carrots, artichokes, onions, garlic, and lots of greens. Get the liver to detoxify, move along. So if the liver's functioning better, then the liver is going to metabolize the estrogens, and they're not going to get unused and stored in fatty tissues. They're going to get metabolized, utilized, and right to the bowel and eliminated, not reabsorbed. Drink 8 glasses of water per day. Water detoxes. Water detoxes. I don't know how many times I can say that to people. Anytime you're ill or you have any issues, it seems like the docs always all say this too, 8 glasses of water a day. Eating fiber-rich foods. Remove those estrogen metabolites, and once again, organic fiber, preferably from fruits and vegetables. But there are supplements that you can get on fibers like psyllium husk, flaxseed fiber. I know in my store I have all organic sources that you can use for fiber to help remove these estrogen metabolites and a lot of the other toxins as well. You should be having 2 to 3 bowel movements a day. If you're not, that's not right. You got to eliminate those toxins and get them gone, or all of those types of chemicals, girls and boys alike, get all reabsorbed back into the body. Avoid red meat, particularly standard grocery store red meat. Red meat, you got to go organic. You got to know from whence it comes as best you can. And even organic sources, I know some of them are pasture fed, and hence the airplanes fly over and there it is. But at least you know the grains and those types of feeds that are being given to the cattle are organic and unsprayed, and so it's not going to store in the fatty tissues of the cows and then yummy, yummy, let's eat all our dioxins and chemicals. When we're talking about what we can do to help treat this, diet is paramount, but there are supplements that can aid and abet the elimination or lowering the estrogen dominance, or at least reduce some of the side effects that are associated with estrogen dominance. Lots of good books written, Dr. John Lee, Christine Northrup, a lot of books written on this issue about estrogen dominance. And we're seeing it in Scientific America. We're seeing it in studies that are coming out of the universities. There's things that we can do. Number one, natural progesterone creams. Natural progesterone creams, what happens is these estrogens, these very strong xenoestrogens, go into the estrogen receptors, and they go into the progesterone receptors, and they go into the testosterone receptors, and they fill it all up. So women's moods go crazy, their hormones go crazy, they get endometriosis, they get it all the female-related problems. What the natural progesterone will do is it'll kind of kick the guys out of the parking lot and say, hey, xenoestrogens, get out of my space. And so it'll fill the progesterone receptor sites to where the body can get rid of those xenoestrogens through the bowel, get them gone. Very helpful. I've seen fibroids shrink by using this. I've seen endometriosis reduction, and I have a few healthcare professionals, including medical doctors, that are recommending this to their patients when they have those fibroids, endometriosis, and polycystic issues. DIM, very well studied, and actually pharmaceutical studied. However, I think they couldn't quite derive the chemical out of that to make it an expensive drug because it comes from broccoli. So heavy concentrations of organic broccoli, and it takes each 100 milligrams, 50 to 100 milligrams is about a pound of broccoli, and that's a lot of broccoli to eat. But 200 to 300 milligrams a day, and it assists the liver in estrogen detoxifying of xenoestrogens. So it binds to those xenoestrogens, takes them in the bowel, bye-bye, boys. So if we can get rid of those, move them out of the body quicker, we can reduce that estrogen dominance. Vitamin E, and vitamin E is recommended a lot for fibrocystic breast disease, and it also, too, aids in the estrogen metabolization and utilization and removal as well, too. And I know for me, it aided my lowering between that progesterone cream and DIM. I have no more fibroids, and I had fibrocystic and even had a couple of breast lumps removed years ago. So it's all in my family, so I recognize my family tends to be estrogen dominant. But when I utilize these types of supplements, I don't have those issues anymore, so it can be done. Essential fatty acids. Now, you can get this through organic nuts, walnuts, almonds, pecans, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. You can get it in those sources as well. Or you can do flax oil in combination, or fish oil in combination with borage oil. I think we don't get enough what are called good omega-6s. You hear the doctor saying, don't do omega-6s, because there are different classifications of omega-6s. Some of them are like meat sources, and which are hormone disrupting, and then some of them are plant sources, which are hormonal stabilizing. And borage oil and evening primrose oil, I can remember having pretty bad PMS after my birth of my 23-year-old and going in, and I got this young hippie doctor, and I went in and she said, honey, you got to try some evening primrose oil. And so I was like, I wasn't into supplements back then, but I listened to her, and it actually really did help. And now where I'm at, it is an absolute must for hormonal stabilization. A good multiple vitamin, particularly high in Bs, or you're going to add an extra B50 twice a day, once again aids in estrogen metabolism. If you're noticing on here, you know, oftentimes I'll have this lengthy list of things you can do, and there's probably more I could add on here, but it's pretty reasonable in the things that we can do, particularly if you have this problem. It doesn't take much. A little bit more pricey on the organic produce, but geez, I kind of think of myself as being the Cadillac or the Mercedes, and so I'm going to treat my body like that because I only got one. Only got one. No, nothing else is going to replace it. There's no bionic body parts for me. So, milk thistle and ester C, when we combine those milk thistle and ester C are very strong antioxidants for the liver. Also helps with the skin tissue and youthing qualities as well that us women in my age category need. But milk thistle is very, very helpful in liver enzymes and very strong antioxidant for the liver. Magnesium citrate, for women who have endometriosis or fibroids, it can help relax the muscles, the uterine muscle, so they don't spasm quite as much